Welcome to the Blender Goon. In this video, we're going to go over some basics of texture painting so you guys can start painting your models a little bit by hand. So to texture paint, clearly we need an object. So I'm going to make a mesh cube, and I'm going to go ahead and put a material on it, but you need to make sure your object is unwrapped. So the default cube comes in unwrapped already, so we're good there. If you made your own object, go ahead and unwrap it. Then I'm going to jump over into shading, go to new, change this to uh, rendered. Let me put a light in here real quick. Oh, light. I'm just going to put a sunlight in and go into render mode. Aim this like that. Put a plane in here so it reflects some light back up. That ought to be good. I'm going to jump back into shading with my cube selected. And I'm just going to change the roughness on it to make it shinier. So that gives me some shine. And I'm going to turn the specular down too. I want a little more shine. Or, wait, no, back. Turn it up, rather. Alright, so once we're done there, we could jump into texture paint and get this started. So go ahead to the texture paint tab. So we also need to check to make sure our normals are right. I know they are on the cube, but if you hit your drop down up here for your overviews, you can go to face orientation and check and make sure everything turns blue. If it's red, you need to flip your normals over. You do that by going into edit mode, selecting everything, and hitting Shift N, and that will flip your normals over for you. But we're good for now. So as you guys can see, the cube is pink, and it's pink because it doesn't have a image attached to it. So we need to make an image. So if we go over to the 2D window and we click New, we can change it to texture paint. Just naming it that for now. We can change the width and the height. I'm going to leave it at 1024 for now, but you can change it to whatever you want. And we can choose a base color. I actually want it to be white. Leave the alpha on and go ahead and click OK. So that adds the image to our 2D window, but our cube is still pink, and it's still pink because we need to change a few more settings. So over on the texture slot, make sure you're on your tools up here. The mode, we're going to do single image instead of material. That's going to open up this, and we can hit our drop down and choose our texture, and that applies it to the cube. So normally you wouldn't have to save this, but there's some Blender versions that I believe had a bug in it, so we're going to go ahead and save our image already. We'll have to save it again when we're done, but I guess saving this fixes the bug. So if you go up here to image and you do save as, you can just save it somewhere. I'm going to save it to the desktop, and it's named texture paint, so that's good. So that's saved, and that should clear out the bug. Sometimes it just won't save. It'll turn black when you save it. Don't think it matters in this one, but that's fine. So now we can start painting on this thing. So we're painting in white so you can't see it. So you can go ahead and change the color here, and I'm going to go to green. And if you paint, it starts painting on it. So if you have details in your model, maybe you got like, I don't know, indentations and stuff, it's going to be hard to see. So what you can do to fix that is you can go up here to your overlays panel. You can turn on wireframe, and you can actually change your opacity down to like 85 or so. And that'll give you the ability to see a little better. You can't see it in my image, but if you have a model with some detail, you'll be able to tell. It'll give you some extra clarity. So the first little trick I'm going to show you is saving a color palette, and that way you don't lose your colors, because I do it all the time. I'll paint with something and lose my color. So if you go over here, we can shrink the brushes. We don't need it for right now. And here's where you can pick your color as well as up here. But if you go right below that, there's color palette, and you can go ahead and create a new one. And then if you want to, you can select a color and go ahead and grab your color from over here on the 2D window, and that'll set that to the color you're having. And then you can hit this little plus, and that'll save it. Now you can use that white color to erase, because that's the base color of our palette. Then we can choose a green. Like since I did that, I'm going to select this color picker again, and I'm going to choose my green over here. That'll give me my green back, and I'm going to hit the color palette. So I've got my green, and then let's say I want a blue. We'll go ahead and make a color palette of blue. Just hit plus, and that gives you your blue, and then maybe a pink. and plus again. So now I have a color palette to pick from to draw. So if I want to erase, I can pick my white and erase. If I want to draw with blue, I can draw with blue, and so on and so forth. We also have a second color over here. I think it was black before I changed it. We have a second color over here, and what I would do, I'd go ahead and click on it and grab your picker and select your white. That way you can hold control and erase with left click, because that selects the second color. And then later on we're doing smear and stuff. You can actually add a second color here, so color picker and like blue. That way you can mix green and then blue and then green and then blue just by holding control and letting go in control. So that's a nice option to have that second color on there. And like I said, I'm going to keep it at white so that I can erase with it. So now let's look at some tools. You can change the strength of your brush and the size of your brush by hitting F. F changes the size of your brush, and Shift F changes the strength of how much you're using. You can also change it up here, so there's your radius and there's your strength. And you can also change it over here under brush settings. You got your radius and your strength. We also have the blend mode. So just like in Photoshop, you have your add and your mix and things. I don't see it. It's hidden. Let me move this up. So mix, add, multiply. You can change those there. We also have symmetry we can turn on. So if you scroll across the top here, just put your mouse over the stuff up here and just scroll with your mouse wheel. We have symmetry here, so we can do X, Y, and Z here if we want to do symmetry there. And we also have symmetry down here at the bottom. You can go there and just turn it on. So if we do X and Y, we can, when we paint, it paints the X and Y symmetry. If you happen to have a tablet and you want to use it, there's YouTube videos on tablets, but in general, these are the pressure sensors here at the strength and radius, and you can also turn them on over here, strength and radius. And you'll need to go to Edit, Preferences, and do the emulate number pad, emulate 3-button mouse, and that'll make your pen work properly. Like I said, there's videos to use your exact tablet, whether it be a Wacom or whatever, and you can look those things up, but general settings are there. So our next tool in our list over here, if you don't see the list, you can hit T to bring the list out, is soften. So soften, softens edges, so we can soften up the edges if we have multiple colors. Let me go back here and make another color. That way you can see how it softens. Back to there, and we can smooth this out and just soften up stuff. Can't see the effect that well, but you will when you're working, because we can change some other stuff. If you want to sharpen the edges, you can come up here to brush and flip it to sharpen, and go ahead and paint on there. It's giving some weird effects, but it sharpens. You can also go to the brush settings and hit the advanced, and there's also the same option that's under brush up here. So you will get a little laggy stuff when you're working with soften. It tends to lag just a hair. Another thing I wanted to show you is if you go over here to fall off, you can change to fall off. So right now we're on just regular old custom smooth. If we change it to sharp and then we paint, let's make that smaller. Nope, go back to soften, my bad. And now go to sharp. We can paint and it gives you sharper edges, and then if you go to soften, it makes a lot more sense. But yeah, the fall off is here, and you can change it to whatever fall off you want. So our next tool is the smear tool, and I like the smear tool. It helps me clean up edges and things really well. So you can take, and whatever color you pick on is the color it's going to smear. So if I pick the white and smear, see how I can smooth that out. I usually use a bigger brush, and then I just kind of clean up some edges, and I'm pretty sure the fall off works with that also. If you change the fall off to sharp, you can actually do some sharper edges. And I still have symmetry on. Let me turn that off. And I like to use a little bigger brush, like I said, and I can clean up things like that. You can also use it to change this back to smooth. You can also use it to smear colors and just blend them together and maybe go back to soften and soften that up so you can get some nice effects like that. And that's the smear brush. The next tool on the list is the clone button. You can use it to clone areas. So I'm going to grab this area here, and you do it by holding control and clicking the left mouse button, and your 3D cursor will move so you'll know it worked. And then you can just click anywhere to paint those. Same thing anywhere you want to paint them. And you can just paint with it too. But that'll help you. Apparently I changed it by accident. You can do a lot of stuff with this. Like I made some folds in some pants one day, and the normal map wasn't right, so I used it on the normal map to actually fix it, and made some nice folds on my pants with that. The next tool on the list is the fill tool, and the fill tool works just like you think it would. I'm going to select my white in the color palette here, and I'm just going to click on it, and that'll erase everything I've done before. So the fill tool is nice. Maybe I want the whole thing pink, and now it's pink, or maybe green. So that's the fill tool. It does exactly what you think it does. If you have separate objects and stuff, it's nice because you can just fill all of them in different colors. So the next tool is the mask tool. We're not going to use it right now, but you can do mask selection by edit selection. So if we go into edit mode here, I'm actually going to give it some more geometry so I can do some selections. So if I select this part here, this is the only part I can paint now. So if I hit tab to go back into texture paint, it gives me the selection mode. If I click this, I can only paint this area. So now I can paint that one area. And it went all checkered on me because we have wireframe turned on here. Because I didn't have any geometry, you couldn't really tell before, but it was still showing wireframe, you just couldn't tell. So we can paint that, and then maybe we'd want to paint something else the same color or a different color. We can go here and we can like, let's select these guys. Maybe select these guys also. And then we can go back into texture paint, and since our little button's still turned on, then we can paint these individually also. So it's a good way to, paint yourself a little Minecraft creeper with crooked eyes. But that's the selection by edit mode. And you can turn that off to, paint over stuff. So let's say I go green or go pink and scale this down. And now I can paint these areas again. And the areas around them. And don't forget your blend mode messes with stuff. So maybe I won't multiply. Okay. So we wouldn't painted all this stuff. So how do we use it now? Well, right now if we go into, if we hit Z and go into material preview, you can't see it. It's not on our cube yet. We actually need to add it to the image texture. We've got our shiny on there. And I'm going to go ahead and it's all right. We're going to go to a different tab anyhow. We've got our shiny on there, and you can see it if you look at it at a certain angle, but we need to get this texture on there. And the way we do that is, first off, we got to save it. We saved it once, but we're going to save it again now that we painted on it. So image, and I'm just going to hit save because it'll save over the old one. Now I'm going to go into my shading tab, and our image is down here still. So we can actually take and grab this little square box right here and drag it right on in there. And now we can take this and plug it into our base color. And there it is. And that's how you add it on there. And then we can select this one and hit Control T if you had Node Wrangler on. And actually put our texture coordinates in. Don't really need them that much, but it's nice to have them in if you do multiple bakes.